And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook on this Saturday, March 15th, 2025. And to kind of set things up, as of this Saturday later morning, we have weak area of low pressure pivoting through the area around Haida Gwaii up toward the southern panhandle, and it's bringing accumulating snow to around Ketchikan, Metlakatla, and periods of light to even occasionally moderate snow will continue across southern areas of the panhandle into the day on Sunday. Meanwhile, further west, we're going to watch a weak secondary low develop off the Kenai coast and outside of Hinchinbrook entrance Sunday into Sunday night. And we still have moisture in areas of generally light snow up the Susitna Valley along parts of the Alaska Range, lower ceilings and visibilities, and along with IFR conditions there. That'll be the case Sunday morning. Along the Arctic coast, still breezy. Strongest winds are down here along areas of the Lisburn, right around Cape Lisburn and the peninsula there. These winds will continue. Areas of blowing, drifting snow will be the case through the weekend. And then further west in the Bering, a low pressure with a frontal system extending eastward. And eventually we'll see secondary low development that will take a low down here south of the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island by early next week. So by Sunday afternoon, we still have areas of IFR conditions along the Arctic coast, and that could even extend down a bit here a little further south, but nevertheless, because of some blowing and drifting snow. And then areas around the Talkeetna Mountains and surrounding Prince William Sound, we could see some IFR conditions into Sunday afternoon. MVFR conditions, southern panhandle, and then a broad band of IFR conditions across the central Bering, down into the eastern Aleutians, tip of the Alaska Peninsula because of the frontal boundary there, and some of the precipitation associated it, and the lower ceilings then as the result. Now by Monday morning, we'll find IFR conditions along the northern Gulf Coast and into the intercoastal mountains up there toward Cordova, Valdez, also still up there around that area near and east of Talkeetna and over toward Tanita Pass perhaps, but certainly still along and south of the central Alaska Range. Areas along the Arctic coast from Kaktovik through Utqiagvik to Point Hope. Expect IFR conditions in snow and blowing snow mainly and drifting snow, and then a band of IFR conditions again across the central lower Bering into the Alaska Peninsula. And for Monday afternoon, we see an expansion of IFR conditions across areas of the Panhandle, especially the intercoastal mountains, the northern Panhandle, northeastern Gulf Coast, Yakutat, all the way west through Prince William Sound, the eastern Kenai, and then also to the south of there, the southwestern Gulf, Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait. There's going to be an area of low pressure here that's going to begin to pull some moisture northward, but there's actually another low down here that's going to pivot back toward the northwest, and that will tend to try to spread more precipitation along the western Gulf Cook Inlet area here as we go into Monday night and on Tuesday. So pass conditions for Sunday, Anaktuvik Pass, they're southward VFR, but to the north, as you pop out the north entrance toward the north slope, MVFR. Same thing, Adigan Pass, generally VFR through the pass and southward, but to the north there, MVFR conditions expected. Now, going further south along the Alaska Range, Lake Clark and Merrill will start out MVFR, but try to become VFR in the afternoon. Not 100% sure that will happen, but nevertheless, looking at MVFR through the morning. Rainy Pass should generally hold on to MVFR conditions, and as we round up along the central Alaska Range, IFR conditions at Windy Pass to start giving way to MVFR conditions, but north of there, the north entrance and points north, IFR will hold during the day on Sunday. Isabel Pass will start out with IFR conditions Sunday morning, trying to give way to MVFR for the afternoon. Mentasta Pass looks generally MVFR conditions for the day Sunday. And then as we drop down across Copper River Basin, including Tanita Pass, IFR conditions trying to become MVFR. That'll be a little tougher because the areas that are going to be further on off to the north there may be stuck in IFR conditions, as well as even areas to the south. Portage Pass, generally IFR conditions are expected to hold during the day on Sunday. And then in the far northern panhandle, we're looking at VFR conditions at both Chilkoot and White Passes. Now, freezing levels, here's the surface freezing line Sunday morning, extends through the central Bering Sea, dropping down across the far eastern Aleutians with a little dip further south into the North Pacific, and then coming back up into the western Gulf, and then running along the outer coast, say Sitka, down through Prince of Wales Island. So there's not a lot of mild air anywhere in Alaska. And if you look at for any hints of domes of warmer air being drawn northward, either with a strong frontal system and low pressure or a warmer dome of air associated with a ridge of high pressure, we don't have anything like that really showing up on the map. So overall, we have seasonably cool temperatures across the mainland and into the panhandle. And that's expected to continue here into next week, especially leading up to the equinox next Thursday. But for Sunday, there are going to be pockets of lingering moisture, some snow here as you get up around Hyder, Metlakatla, Ketchikan. It should begin to diminish, but above 4,000 feet, you could find some icing, especially toward the intercoastal mountains. Back here, across areas of the northwestern Gulf, coming in up into the Chugach and perhaps Talkeetna Mountains above 3,000 feet. There could be areas of icing where there's some pockets of moisture, thicker clouds that still could produce some patchy light snow. And then back here to the west, this frontal band and its associated precipitation and cloud cover. We expect icing above 4,000 feet, especially lower part of the Alaska Peninsula into the eastern Aleutians. Upper level winds, 30,000 feet at jet stream level, fairly quiet over the mainland, though there is a northwesterly flow across the lower Yukon, Kuskokwim deltas into Bristol Bay. Stronger jet core is behind me off the screen, getting up over 135 knots, well to the southwest of the Aleutians. Now at 9,000 feet, mid-level winds associated with this big high pressure up in the Arctic Ocean. We have we have the prevailing polar easterlies. They are strengthened along the Arctic coast. So at 9,000 feet, we're looking at winds of 35 to up around 50 knots there above in Utqiagvik. And then down here to the south, a little bit of ridging, but some winds aloft. More importantly, as we get to 3,000 feet, you can kind of see, because this is closer, just above ground level, we have easterly flow here across, especially the Chukchi Sea coast from Utqiagvik down to Point Hope. Locally stronger there at the Cape Lisburne, the Lisburne Peninsula. And then as we drop down across the Gulf, we find winds at 3,000 feet, northwesterly about 30-35 knots there, Kamishak Bay into northeast of Kodiak Island. But here's along and just north of that frontal boundary, we have an elongated area of low pressure and trough that's associated with this front. So we have one low back here, another one trying to take shape here. And so along that frontal boundary, 3,000 feet aloft, we find winds of 40 to locally in excess of 50 knots. So where's the greatest likelihood for some turbulence? Sunday, starting in the far northwest, especially that area around Point Lay down to Cape Lisburne. We could expect some moderate turbulence, surface to 3,000 feet, even some low-level wind shear. And then dropping down Cook Inlet, we could see some moderate turbulence and lower Cook Inlet toward Kennedy Entrance and just northeast of Kodiak Island, surface to 5,000 feet, and then back out across the Alaska Peninsula into the eastern Aleutians because of that frontal boundary. We are potentially looking at some moderate turbulence there on Sunday, surface to 4,000 feet.